Likkutei Torah, Parshas Pinchas, page 154. Last time we learned the first mimer on Ayin Hey, so now we're doing the second one. Okay, Tzav is b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleim. This is what we say every day in davening, which we read on Rosh Chodesh. Commanded v'amarta aleim, tell them it's korban ilachmi le'ishai. My korban, my bread for my offering. V'amarta aleim, you should tell them zeh isha shetikru v'Hashem. This is the sacrifice you should bring for Hashem. One sheep in the morning, one sheep in the afternoon. He says, lahavin, to understand, Kei for Loshin, based Pamin v'amarta. The pasuk says, Savis b'nei Yisrael, v'amarta aleim, and then it says right away, v'amarta aleim a second time. Why does it saying it twice? V'gam shinu Loshin, also the way the Torah changes the expression. First it says, takrivu, and then it says, so one place, in the same pasuk, it says, tikrivu means to be makriv. Then it says, it should have said takriv babaker. It says ta'asa babaker, you should do it. Also, gam takrivu loshen rabim, the pasuk takrivu is plural, but ta'asa loshen yochid, and ta'asa is singular. So number one, the pasuk says twice the word v'amarta. One time it says, bring, sacrifice it, and then it says, do it. Same thing. It's the same pasuk. It says, takrivu and ta'asa. And also one's plural, one's singular. So it's all mixed up in the same pasuk. The Inyan is as follows. Maimed Azali, the Gemara says, Kol makom shenamet tzav. Any place where the Torah says tzav, it's not the Gemara's medrash. Hu miyad uladeiris. When the Torah uses the word command, Rashi brings this down on Chumash many times. It means immediately and for all generations. Meaning it's not only for now, command them for now, but for all generations also. You say, okay, for Amida, that's the double expression of Amida. And V'amarta aleim miyad, that refers to the immediate korbanos, shekrivu bizman shebeis hamikdash chayim. That refers to the korbanos that are brought in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. V'amarta lahem ainu l'deiris, which is tiknu tefillah keneged tmida, which is the concept of davening. So he says like this: Tzav is b'nei Yisrael, is commandment. It means now and for all times. So he says v'amarta, the first one is representing the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and the second v'amarta refers even when there's no Beis Hamikdash. So what is the inyan of Kabbalah? The inyan of davening. And that's why he says takrivu and tas. He's going to explain this also.
Did he finish the manner about the spinal cord?
Most of it. Part of it, most of it.
Or this is continuing?
The purpose, no, it's not it's a new mimer. Purpose is not to finish a mimer.
I understand.
The purpose is to learn chassidus. I said there were chassidim that dafka didn't finish. When they learned the mimer, they dafka didn't finish it. Why? I didn't want any, I finished the mimer. They learn chassidus, that's it. V'nei tzarich lahavin echad tefillah keneged tmidim. L'cheira, how is davening corresponding with the korbanos? When kavasim b'nei shana, which are bringing sheep, and tefillah b'koshes rachamim. So davening is requests. A korban is taking an animal on the mizbeach. What does an animal on the mizbeach have to do with requests? I mean, what's the tefillah is instead of korbanos. What korbanos is davening instead of? The morning korban and the afternoon korban, right? So, what's the connection between a korban, which is taking an animal and killing it and putting it on the mizbeach, to the level of davening, which is requests? What's the connection between the two? The gamlov and mashal calls to be korbanos. Also, to understand what it says by korbanos, reach nichayach, a good smell. And like Rashi says, nachas ruach ufanai. Okay? Nachas ruach means, reach nichayach means a good smell, meaning, what's the smell? The korban stink. You know, burning hide stinks. It means Hashem said that you listened to me, I had the enjoyment. Hashem smelled this beautiful smell, What type of enjoyment do you have by smelling stinky korbanos that are burning on the mizbeach, the bone and the fats? You know, it's an awful smell. See, so there's a bunch of questions over here. Number one, besides the original questions, but the question is, how are korbanos davening instead of korbanos? A completely different aspect, and also. Korbanos is a good pleasure, a good smell. What good smell is there from korbanos? So he says like this. The Indian is like this. The ultimate purpose of the descent of the neshama into this world, is to come into a body, is a descent for the sake of elevation. But we learned that many times. Before we say, says in Chazal, it was only him and his name, that's it. What does Shmei mean? His name. So he says, Shmei, Shin Mem Vav, is the same gematria as Rotzein, as will. Shumakar Ashpa V'chayis and Ivroim, which is the source of all creations. So before Hashem created the world, there was him and his name. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining what is his name. Name is Shmei, and Ratzon is the same numerical value. Ratzon means Hashem's desire to create the world. So now that before the world was created, what exists? Hashem, and his desire to create the world. It enters Hashem's simplistic will, Lias Malach Shmei, that he should be a king. Hashem wanted to be a king. Now, in order to be a king, we learned you need to have subjects. The definition of subjects are not your own children, which are an extension of you. Foreigners mean foreigners that are not you, and yet they subjugate themselves to you. Now, if Hashem is the only existence that exists, how can you have foreigners that subjugate themselves to Hashem? So therefore, there has to be this concept of creation of world, which Hashem created the world in a way that there's so much concealment of godliness that in their world, they're foreigners, because they don't feel the existence of Hashem. So they're foreigners, and Hashem wants that to create a world that these foreigners, Tachtainim, are all bottled to Hashem. Like we say in Baruch Shama, Yachid Chayalam Melech, Shulavad Yachid Meyuchad. Hashem is Yachid, meaning there's nothing but Him. And what is Chay Olam in the life of the world? That's only the level of Melech. In other words, like this: there's Yachid, Chay Olam Melech. So you say Yachid. Chay Olam means the life of the world, and then he says Melech. Okay, so what does that mean? There's three stages here. There's Yachid, there's the way Hashem is completely above. Not Einay Mulvadei, there's only Hashem's existence. Then you have Chay Olamim, where Hashem is giving life to the world, which seemingly is an opposite concept of Yachid. Because Yachid means nothing but Him. Chay Olamim, the life of the worlds, meaning now there are worlds, which Olam means Helam, a concealment of godliness, which means now there are seemingly foreigners. So why is there coming from Yachid to Chay Olamim, which are opposite? Yachid means there's only Hashem. Chay Olamim means there's a world existing and He's dealing with the world. So why from Yachid does it come Chay Olamim? So the answer is Melech. He wants to be a king. Hashem wants to be a king, and therefore you can be a king if you're Yachid. If you're the only existence, who you are king over?
So why in the after bracha we say Chay Olamim? We should say, what is the connection? In after bracha.
We say in Baruch Shem also, Yachid Chay Olamim.
Yes. But in after bracha,
what do we say? Baruch Chay Olamim. To bring down that level of Elokus. That bracha is speaking about the world of Hashem that He created. Okay.
yes.
the luxuries of life, the necessities of life, that's all included in Baruch Shem. Now we say Baruch Sheni Nimshach, that we should feel that this Gashmiistic thing that we just ate is Chei Olamim, coming from Hashem. So he says, V'chei Olam ein ala b'chinas melech. Therefore, Kedem Shenivra Olam, before Hashem created the world, Hayo Shmei Bilvad. It was only him in the level of wanting to create a world, Malchusa, Haisaklul, Lebeintzav Mamash. Then the level of being king is included in himself. And therefore he's called Erdin Tzav Baruch Hu, which is only Ur Raziv. But V'haya Ur Kalu B'mar Atzmei, the revelations of Elokus were part of Elokus. In other words, let me just read this. Acha Shenivra Olam, Nats is pashtus Ur Vaziv Lahachis Nivra Miyayin Liyesh B'Seder Ishtalshtus. So he said like this: Kedem Shenivra Olam, before Hashem created the world, there was only him and his Ratzain to create a world, because he wanted to be Melech. But that, because it's the only thing that existed is Hashem, is only Hayu Shmei Bulvad. Shmei was part of him. Hayahu and Shmei is part of him. It's like the ray of the sun in the sun. Now that he created the world, so now that ray leaves the sun, now that becomes a tangible level of Elokus. That now from our perspective there exists the world. From our perspective we are foreigners. We're not an extension of Hashem. And therefore Hashem wants that us as foreigners should now become bottled to Hashem.
Well, I thought that when we say Acharona is because if there is a mitzvus or neshama of somebody in that apple, in that food, or something that we ate, it should be elevated. Like the story from Baal Shem Tov, like if there is a...
First of all, I don't know, I'm not saying it's not true. Who told you that?
I don't know.
In which center did you hear that?
He's in his dream.
In which center did you hear that?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Okay, so when you remember, you let me know. What?
There's no such thing?
I don't know. I can't say there's no such thing. Okay. In order to say no such thing, you have to know everything in the world.
You do?
Unless if something is so stupid that it can't be Torah says it. I told you the story of Chaim Brisker. It was very close to the Rebbe's shop. Somebody once told him there's a thesis. And the Gemara, yeah? So he said there's no such thesis. And he said, it's not because I know all thesis, but such a stupid thing thesis could have never said. Understand? I'm not saying it's not true. Maybe it's true. I don't know. Okay. Then after created the Seder Shtamadri Derech Ilav All cause and effect, Ad Olam Azar Gashmi, which is Yesh Gashmi V'Davar Nifred Mamish Gashmi is separate entities. V'Yurida G'Dayla L'Gabi Erv Aziv Shayakolu Berin Tzof. And therefore this now the created worlds, which is already creating foreigners, which are really not foreigners, but in their perspective they are foreigners, right? So that is a tremendously great descent from that level of Kedem Shenivra Olam. But V'tacha say Yerida, why did they wish to lower all these levels to come down into a level of Gashmis and concealment? Lies miyesh la'ayin, she'ayesh gam kim bottle, that the yesh should become bottle. V'nechlo ba'erin tzavim baruch mamish, to become one with Hashem. So in other words, why did Hashem lower himself all the way down from Hayahu Shmei Bovad, that the only thing that existed was Hashem and his will to create world, which then only existence was Hashem? And why in the world did he create a world which is so far and concealment of Hashem that they even deny the existence of Hashem? Why is that? Because Hashem wanted to have to be a melech. By the way, this B'chlal, you have to understand. Kedem Shenivra Olam, before the world was created, does not mean in time. Because before the world was created, there is no time. So you can't say then before and after. So before means it's a higher level. Not time-wise before. That's number one. And this also answers the question, we say every day in davening, Adein Eilam, Hashem Malach, B'terem Kol Yisur Nivra. Master of the world, who ruled before anything was created. If there's anything that was nothing's created, how can you be a melech? Melech means there's subjects that are bottled. So this really answers. I mean, there's the Maimonides, there's a lot of Maimonides. The point is that it means that refers to this level of malchus that he says, Hayu Shmei Bulvad. That's the way the willpower of Ratzain, of malchus, existed in Hayu Shmei Bulvad. So that level existed even before the world.
So he was a melech when he was Levan?
He was a melech what?
When he was Levan? When he was by himself?
He had the will to be a melech.
Later.
There was no later at that time.
If there's nobody around, how come you be a melech?
By us, what's called koyach chaser payil. The potential doesn't mean I did it. The koyach, the potential is lacking the payil, the actual. By l'mayla ein koyach chaser payil. By Hashem, the koyach means it happened already. Like we said, what year did Shviras HaKelim happen?
Constantly happens.
Okay. Because that level is above Elokus. It's Teil, which is higher than Tikkun. Right? So that level is constantly happening because there's no time there. We can't get that. Our brains are not capable. Yeah? Brains, not neshama. Tzaddikim get it because their neshama gets it. Their neshama is in the highest level, they get it. But we as humans, with not such lofty neshamas, yeah, cannot perceive a concept of above time and place. We can't. It's physically impossible. Because a finite mind cannot understand something infinite. We can speak it, we can say it, we can talk it, but we don't get it. Because it's impossible for a finite mind to understand the infinite concept that doesn't exist. We don't know what infinite is either. We can't grasp infinite. By us, infinite is all the way trillion, you know. But that's not reality. We can speak about infinite, we can say what it is, but we can't get it. By the beginning of creation, he says, Hayu Shmei Bavad, meaning, like he says, the idea that he wanted to be a melech. And he says, and therefore this is a tremendous Yerida, that now the level of Hayu Shmei Bavad comes to create Eilam Hazah Gashmi. But Tachas Yerida, what's the purpose of it is, Liyetz Miyash La'ayin. That the yesh, in other words, Hashem made yesh miyayin, and our job is to make the yesh back into the yayin. Meaning, the yesh should be bottled to Hashem. V'ni aliyah or ikris. The primary level of aliyah is shenema. Levyasin zayitzar to l'sachik bey. The levyasin which Hashem formed to play with, the Levyasin Lasin Lavi. So the Pasuk says, Levyasin Zayatzarto, why did Hashem form him? L'sachbi, to play with it. What do you mean Hashem plays games? I mean, it's, what does it mean? That's the level of enjoyment. Playing means enjoyment. That the yesh should be bottled to the ayin.
Wow.